Your shower used to stay hot for 20 minutes and now it goes cold in 5. Before you start pricing out a whole new water heater, here is the blunt version. Running out of hot water fast almost never means the heater is dead. It is usually one cheap part or a tank full of mineral gunk, and the repair is somewhere between free and a couple $100 in parts. The trick to knowing which problem you have is one question. Did the hot water shrink suddenly like it was fine last week and now it is not? Or has it been slowly getting shorter for months? Sudden usually means a broken part. Gradual usually means the tank itself is clogged or wearing out. Hold that question in your head while we go through the causes, because it points straight at your answer. I have flushed enough tanks and read enough service manuals to walk you through every likely reason and the fix for each one. But first, rule out the one thing that is not a repair at all. Make sure your hot water habits did not just change. A new roommate, a teenager who discovered long showers, a new soaking tub, or running the dishwasher and laundry while someone showers will drain a perfectly healthy tank fast. A normal 40 or 50 gallon heater only holds so much, and once it is empty, it needs 30 minutes or more to make a fresh batch. If your demand went up and nothing actually broke, the heater is doing its job. That is a sizing problem, and I will come back to it at the end. Now to the actual faults, starting with the most common one by a wide margin, sediment. Every time your heater warms a tank of water, tiny minerals settle out and sink to the bottom. Over months and years, that layer of sand and grit builds up, and it costs you hot water 2 different ways. It physically takes up space that used to hold water, so a 50-gallon tank might really be holding 40. And on a gas heater, it forms a crust right over the burner at the bottom, insulating the flame from the water, so the tank heats slower and recovers slower. This is the classic slow decline. If your showers have been creeping shorter over a year or two, and especially if you hear rumbling or popping from the tank, sediment is your prime suspect. The fix is to flush it. You hook a garden hose to the drain valve near the bottom, shut off the cold water supply, and let the tank empty into a floor drain or outside. Then briefly turn the cold back on to stir up the grit, and drain it again until the water runs clear. Doing this once a year keeps it from coming back, and in hard water areas you want to do it more like every 9 months. If the tank is badly caked and a flush barely helps, that is the tank telling you it is near the end. The next suspect is a small plastic part most people have never heard of, the dip tube. Cold water comes into your tank through a long tube that carries it down to the bottom, so the cold stays low and you draw the hot off the top. When that tube cracks, breaks, or crumbles with age, the cold water now dumps in near the top and mixes straight into the hot water heading out to your shower. So the water turns lukewarm fast even though the heater is working fine. This one can come on slowly as the tube degrades, or fairly suddenly if it finally snaps, so do not rule it out either way. There are 2 dead giveaways for it. First, the water gets warm but never really hot anywhere in the house. Second, you start finding little white or gray plastic flecks clogging your faucet screens and shower heads, which are pieces of the disintegrating tube. A new dip tube is a cheap part, $10 or $20, and it threads in through the cold inlet on top of the tank. A plumber will charge somewhere around $100 to $300 to do it, mostly labor. If you have an electric water heater, there is one more big cause, and it is the usual answer when the hot water suddenly drops by half overnight. Electric tanks heat with 2 elements, an upper one and a lower one. The lower element does most of the work keeping the whole tank hot. When it burns out, only the top element is still heating, so you get hot water from the top portion of the tank and then it goes cold fast, because the bottom 2/3 never got warm. Here is a useful tell. A dead lower element gives you a short burst of hot then cold. A dead upper element gives you almost no hot water at all. So short then cold points at the lower one. You can test it yourself with a cheap multimeter if you are comfortable around electrical. First, and this is not optional, shut off the breaker to the water heater and confirm the power is dead with a non-contact voltage tester before you open anything. Then pull the lower access panel, fold back the insulation, disconnect a wire from the element, and touch the multimeter probes to the 2 terminals on the ohm setting. A good element reads somewhere around 10 to 30 ohms. A reading of 0 or an open reading that does not register at all means the element is burned out and needs replacing. The part is $15 to $40 and swapping it runs about $100 to $350 installed if you hire it out. One hard rule if you do it yourself: never switch the power back on until the tank is completely full again, because firing a dry element destroys it instantly. While you have that panel open, there is a related electric cause worth checking: the thermostat. Each element has a thermostat behind the insulation, and if the lower one fails or got bumped down low, the lower element never gets told to heat. Most tanks have a dial you can see once the cover is off. Set it to about 120 degrees, which is the safe standard, and if the dial is clearly working but the element still will not heat, the thermostat itself can be the bad part. It is a cheap piece to replace. Gas heaters have their own version of a slow tank. If yours is gas and the hot water has gotten weaker, the burner may be dirty or partly clogged, or the flame is just weak and a lazy flame cannot reheat the tank fast enough to keep up with you. Pull the lower cover and look at the burner flame while it is running. A healthy flame is mostly blue and steady. If it is yellow, lazy, or sooty, the burner wants cleaning, and the air intake screen underneath the heater may be choked with dust and lint. Clearing that screen is easy, but actually cleaning the burner means working on the gas manifold, so if you are not confident around gas connections, that part is worth handing to a pro. And one safety rule that is not negotiable: if you ever smell rotten eggs near the heater, that is gas. Do not poke around and do not light anything. Get everyone out of the house and call your gas company from outside. There is one more cause that fools people, because the heater itself tests perfectly fine. It is a plumbing crossover. Somewhere in the house, a worn cartridge in a single handle faucet or shower valve, or a failing mixing valve can let cold water sneak across into your hot water line under pressure. That cold quietly waters down your hot supply and drains it fast, and no amount of work on the heater will fix it. The tell is that the heater checks out, but if you feel the hot pipe coming off the top of the tank, it runs cooler than it should. Tracking down and replacing that one bad valve or cartridge solves it. So that is the full list, and here is how to think about what comes next. Run that timing question one more time. If the loss was gradual, start with a flush, because sediment is the most likely answer and it costs you nothing but an afternoon. If it drops suddenly on an electric tank, test that lower element. If the water is lukewarm everywhere and you are seeing plastic bits, replace the dip tube. Most of these put you back to long showers for under a couple $100 in parts. The time to actually think about replacing the whole heater is when the tank is past 10 or 12 years old, the water comes out rusty, it is leaking from the body, or you have flushed it and it still cannot hold heat. And if your tank was simply never big enough for the house, you have a real choice to make between a bigger tank, going tankless, or adding a thermostatic mixing valve that lets you safely store the water hotter and stretch more usable gallons out of the size you already have. I have put the flushing hose, a multimeter, a replacement element with the wrench that fits it, and a dip tube down in the description so you are not guessing on parts. Work it cheapest and most likely first, and most of you will be back to a long hot shower without ever buying a new heater.